let's feed the people what they want. They want us to talk about Cornel West taking this Harlan Crow money. And I guess a good place to start is obviously we have to start by saying that Cornel West did not break any campaign finance laws. It was the $3,300. It's the maximum donation. But I also want to remind everybody who Harlan Crow is. So I pulled this up because it's just a really quick expose that you guys can click through. For over 20 years, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has been treated to luxury vacations by billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow. And then if you keep going, he goes on cruises in far-flung locales on Crow's yacht, flies on his private jet, and keeps company with Crow's powerful friends at the billionaire's private resort. The extent of Crow's largesse has never been revealed until now. And then they go in to show this massive amount of corruption, bright and daylight vacations, luxurious trips, all that shit that was kind of alluded to. They have documents for, and there's a bunch of pictures that you can look at if you're curious. But anyway, that kind of sets the tone. That's where the name Harlan Crow rings a bell from, if you know it. So that's why people are extra, I guess, like a little bit like, why did you do this, right? And Cornel West goes on to explain. We'll hear him out, but it definitely, as somebody who's running as like a staunch leftist, it's kind of been established, particularly in the wake of the Bernie Sanders candidacy, that you really stay far away from billionaire money. But I'll pass the baton to you, Gavin.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, guys. I've given Cornel West the benefit of the doubt. I've been enthusiastic as a supporter, but this is just about the last straw for me. I'm not going to lie. I think this is totally fucking disgraceful. And I'll tell you why. It's not just the fact that Cornel West received this donation, it's his response to the criticism. So as it says here, Cornel West draws the max donation from GOP mega donor Harlan Crow, who is a billionaire. And like you said, Zach, not just any fucking billionaire, perhaps one of the most corrupt Republican mega donors that's around. Obviously, most infamously associated with Clarence Thomas of the Supreme Court. But apparently
he's also a real estate developer, which I just feel like doesn't help his case at all. Like, that's how this guy made his money, is he's like a real estate tycoon, which is like, how the left feels about developers.
I did a quick Wikipedia search on Harlan Crow, and it said on Wikipedia that his father was known as the largest landlord in the country or something like that.
That's some Donald Trump shit. You know what I mean?
Literally. Yeah. 100% Kevin Smith. Dang, WTF Cornel. 100%, man. This is bull. So again, let's get through all the details here. Progressive activist and independent presidential candidate Cornel West received a maximum campaign donation from Republican mega donor Harlan Crow, West's latest fundraising report shows. Crow made the $3,300 donation in August, weeks before West abandoned his bid for the Green Party nomination to run as an independent. Crow has called West a self-proclaimed non-Marxist socialist and a longtime professor at Princeton University, a good friend. West has defended his campaigns from questions about whether it would draw support from Joe Biden, calling the two-party system an impediment for the flower of American democracy. So again, he received this donation. That's one thing. Bernie Sanders, at one point in his campaign, also received a donation from a billionaire. But you guys might remember, what did Bernie Sanders immediately do? He sent it right back. He did not accept that donation. So when I first saw this headline, Cornel West draws max donation from GOP mega donor Harlan Crow, my initial thought was, okay, that's sketchy, but Cornel West is going to reject it. He's going to send the money back. He doesn't want billionaire money. He's not interested in the corrupting influences of that sort of money tainting his campaign and his people-powered message, all that stuff. But I was very saddened to see this statement on Twitter, this ridiculous statement. As an independent candidate and a free black man, I accept donations within the limits of no PACs or corporate interest groups that have strings attached. I am unbought and unbossed. Despite my deep political differences with brother Harlan Crow, who is an anti-Trump Republican, I've known him in a non-political setting for some years, and I pray for his precious family. I find it hypocritical for those who highlight his $3,300 donation to my campaign, but can't say a mumbling word about the PAC-driven $1 billion to support the genocidal attack in Gaza sponsored by their candidate. I'm fighting for truth, justice, and love onward. And I just don't think this is a great statement, to be honest. Like, I first I just thought it was like I thought Cornel West was not taking billionaire money. I kind of thought that was expected. I guess he never officially said that, but I just thought that was expected. And to see him kind of put out this statement, it almost feels like gaslighting, where it's like he's like doing whataboutism.
You
Where
know
it's
what
like,
it
well, what
reminds me
about
of?
what?
You remember how Elizabeth Warren kind of alluded to the fact that at the beginning of her campaign that she wasn't going to take any big billionaire money, and then at the end it started to turn into, we've all got to fight this fight together, and you know what, we need to be pooling all of our resources, okay? And what does that mean? What does that mean for us? What does that look like, everybody? Okay, what does that look like for me? It looks like opening up my purse to the billionaires to shove some life support in there, right? Anyway, and we all kind of roundly mocked her for that. She did end up taking PAC money. I'm not sure. I don't think that, it doesn't look like Cornel West, to be fair, is going to end up taking PAC money, right? So at the end of the day, it's $3,300. It is not a lot of money. It's tough for me because it's like, on the one hand, I agree that on principle you shouldn't take the money from a billionaire, but I'm also not, like, I'm a little softer on it than Gavin. I'm like, I know that it isn't good. I mean, I don't know. What I would be curious about is what relationship does that establish, right? It really kind of plants the seed for skepticism, I think, is the problem. And 100% Lynn Stacks adds, what if we criticize both? I think that's the predicament that we all find ourselves in, right? Where it's why Gavin said it kind of feels like gaslighting. It's like, dude, Dr. West, like, we are always criticizing, the back-driven billionaire dollars to support the genocidal attacks in Gaza. That's like what the left is doing right now. We're basically in unison. And when you don't do it in unison with us, we have been really good at pointing it out. In fact, one of the articles that I pulled today for later in the show, I wanted to just show, I'll throw up now. We've been doing such a good job of being critical of the attacks in Gaza, and the Palestinian, oppression has been, brought to the forefront again in face of the massive media propaganda effort to dehumanize them and paint them all as members of Hamas and terror organizers. But new polling now shows that the Palestinian cause is becoming more popular in the U.S. The U.S. public, particularly younger Americans, are becoming more skeptical of the unconditional support for Israel. In a brand new poll, a majority of Democrats say the U.S. should not send more weapons to Israel, which is a step in the right direction. If you remember just the other day when we had Mac on, I put up a thing of it. It was something like 71% of Americans think Israel's response is justified, right? So the left and our advocacy, not me and Gavin's, but the left broadly, the fact that people are constantly speaking out, it's making a difference. It's changing people's mind. The mainstream opinion is beginning to sway back to the way it was, and I think that's really important. So yeah, that's that is one part that's like really annoying. It's like, of course, like, everybody is still critical of that. Like that's not what the problem is here. The problem is, are we standing against billionaires? Should billionaires not exist? Like, you know what I mean? Would you like? And also, it's like it to me, what all I could take away from this at first, when I first looked at it, was like, oh, this guy saw the RFK polling, which we'll talk about RFK a little bit more later on in the stream. But if we pull up this poll that I saw earlier today, you can see that Kennedy's taking a big bite out of Donald Trump, right? And we've known that for a while. That's why Sean Hannity was going after him, right? That's why the Republican Party has started to kind of sweat him ever since he became no longer just an empty threat in the Democratic primary, but an independent candidate. And obviously those that polling's probably thin because he hasn't received the wrath of the Trump apparatus yet. And Trump has been absolutely spectacular in the past at tearing down his adversaries, particularly when they have a fucking bunch of baggage with them. In RFK's case, it's the fact that he supported Hillary Clinton in the past, you know what I mean? And Trump's base hates Hillary Clinton. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of continue to investigate.
Also, quick update. So it does look like, due to some of the criticism that they've received, Peter Dowd just shared this tweet. Looks like 2 hours ago. FYI, Cornel West for president will be returning Harlan Crow's campaign contribution of $3,300. Cornel West has a lifelong record of moral leadership. He is not a politician. He doesn't pander. At the same time, he listens to the people and responds from the heart. So yeah, and then he quote tweets Cornel West, who says, "How sad that perception so quickly triumph over truth in our decadent culture. This truth in our major catastrophe in the Middle East, where the rich humanity of Palestinians is rendered invisible. It also holds at home in the minor scandal about Harlan Crow's donation to my campaign. He is a staunch anti-Trump Republican who has never forget collections of tyrants, Stalin, Mao, Hitler, and many others, and patriotic collections of Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln. Does this disqualify him from contributing to my campaign? Most people holler yes. I say no. As a jazz man, I listened and decided to give the money back to Brother Harlan, but still state the truth."
Okay, here's where I have to jump in. That's not what anybody was criticizing. That's what's crazy. This is again, it's just directly moving people's eye off the ball. You were listening to, if you were listening to the people, you would realize that they thought that, hey, what we're really worried about is how this guy has used his wealth to manipulate a Supreme Court justice and God knows what else in a very obvious way, and maybe associating with him and publicly taking $3,300, which is here's one piece of credit that you have to give the Cornel West campaign. There was nothing shady about it. They took it in public and they accepted it. Now they're returning it in public, and I do respect that. And I do respect the fact that he's listening to the complaints of his base. How will that be interpreted, and how, like, how will that continue to lead down? Like, if you are going to respond to the Twitter mob and kind of, do that, I don't know. We'll see how it works out in the long run, right? I think in this instance, it's definitely a good thing. It's $3,300. It's not make or break for campaign financing, so of course he should have just fucking given it back in the first place. So I don't know. This is an interesting development. I think he definitely pissed off his base again.
Yeah.
But again, it's like in the face of Joe Biden and Donald Trump and RFK, he's still so obviously the best candidate that it's like, fuck, man. Yeah. I just think the campaign's being, honestly, like, frankly, like, I'm sorry, I just think the campaign's being run like shit.
Yeah. Oh, it's been 100% bungled basically from day one. 100 absolutely since day one, since the disastrous launch with the People's Party. And that's like the biggest problem with the Cornel West campaign. I like Cornel West. I agree with Cornel West. I want to support Cornel West, but he doesn't really seem to be much of a leader in this setting, in this like electoral presidential campaign kind of setting. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Obviously, Cornel West is a leader in many regards. But he keeps having to backtrack. He keeps taking positions and then having to go back on what he said. And then, I'm doing this, and now I'm doing that. And I'm going to start with the People's Party, but actually the Green Party, but actually I'm an independent, and I am going to take this money, but actually I'm not going to take this money. It's just
after tweeting that you proudly stand by taking it, and then being like, actually, my team's been like, our Twitter base is saying no. Like, that's not actually the best look for a president candidate, right? Like, it doesn't show you a lot of conviction, unfortunately. And obviously, Dr. West has tremendous conviction. And again, neither of us want to slander the guy or be disrespectful, but we have to be honest, guys. I mean, I think that of the base of people who would be cheerleading Cornel West and would be his biggest supporters and staunchest allies, so taking any money from a billionaire is like a non-starter almost, right? You know what I mean? And it kind of like, and the fact that he still won't even address the fact that this guy, Harlan Crow, has been documented as manipulating a Supreme Court justice with his wealth. That's what makes me angry, is he's like, given Harlan Crow's history with, Clarence Thomas and his other involvement in
and his never forget collection of tyrants.
See, that's fucking stupid. Why did you fucking bring that? Like, this is like the way that you're not supposed to, like, if you're like, everybody hates when politicians talk down to us, right? And Cornel West is always leveled with the people. He's always just like spoken the truth. This feels like gish galloping almost. You know what I mean? Just like beating around the bush.
It's like, I don't care if you're fucking friends with this billionaire. In fact, that makes me like you less, Cornel West. Why are you talking about how you're friends with this billionaire? I don't get how that is supposed to make this look better. Like, you almost just should have left that part out entirely, because you're defending him. You're whitewashing who this guy actually is while you simultaneously run a campaign which is against the corrupting influence of billionaire money in politics, which is against the oligarchy. Like, how are you going to call out the duopoly for taking corrupting money and then fund your campaign with the same money? It's just stupid. And yeah, obviously credit to him for giving it back, but he shouldn't have had to backtrack. He should have had to get called out on this in order to realize that it was a bad look to take billionaire money, and not just billionaire money, but fucking Harlan Crow's money. We're not talking about some progressive quote unquote billionaire. We're not talking
Also,
about like
people are saying that this is like a very charitable way of saying a guy has like a Hitler collection. So I'm pulling it up right now because I've got to investigate this. So if you look up Harlan Crow Nazi memorabilia, it says and Washingtonian Clarence Thomas's billionaire benefactor collects Hitler artifacts. Harlan Crow also reportedly has a garden full of dictator statues. So that's what Dr. West is charitably describing right there of his never forget collection. So let's go ahead, let's read on, guys. Let's just find out about all this together. Here's the guy. When Republican mega donor Harlan Crow isn't lavishing Justice Clarence Thomas with free trips on his private plane and yacht, in possible violation of Supreme Court ethics rules, he lives a quiet life in Dallas. Among his historical collection, these collections include Hitler artifacts. He owns 2 Hitler paintings. That's an interesting choice. Of European cityscapes, a signed copy of Mein Kampf, and assorted Nazi.
He hates Hitler, Zach. He just hates. He's Hitler's biggest critic, so he felt the need to make sure all this memorabilia was off the streets, and so it couldn't land in the wrong hands.
Heir to a real estate fortune, he said that he's filled his property with these mementos because he hates communism. Nonetheless, these collections caused an uproar back in 2015 when Marco Rubio attended a fundraiser at Crow's house on the eve of Yom Kippur. Rubio's critics thought the timing was inappropriate given, the Hitler stuff. So if even Marco Rubio's supporters are getting pissed off about this, that lets you know. I still can't get over the collection of Nazi memorabilia, says one person who attended an event at Crow's home a few years ago and asked to remain anonymous. It would have been helpful to have someone explain the significance of all the items. Without that context, you sort of just gasp when you walk into the room. One memorable aspect was the paintings, something done by George W. Bush next to a Norman Rockwell next to one by Hitler. Guys, this is so fucked up. This is how rich people live. This is that good friend that Cornel West is vouching for his charity. Or what a fucking this only makes it worse, guys. This makes it so much worse.
Yeah, this is super embarrassing. And again, I'm not just trying to make this like the dunking on Cornel West show. Obviously, I want him to be successful. We've tried to be as supportive as possible, but like we just got to be honest about this shit. It's not a good look. And why are you comparing the media's, reporting of your taking billionaire money to the media's reporting of what's going on in the Middle East with Palestinians? It just seems like a weird, like I'm such a victim. I'm just like the Palestinians that the media is smearing or something. Like what? Why do you have to keep bringing up the Palestinian people to talk about how you've been victimized by the media? That just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And like I said, I think that anyone could have advised Cornel West not to take that in the first place or just to immediately reject it. And he never would have had to respond to this. He never would have had to come out here and talk about how he's good friends with Harlan Crow and praise for his precious family. Like this is a guy that you should be calling out. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy you should be positioning your campaign against. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And I understand that he calls everyone brother and that kind of stuff.
Also, it's supposed to win points with us that he's an anti-Trump Republican guy. This billionaire doesn't want to pay his taxes and collects Nazi memorabilia and, bankrolls a bunch of lavish trips for members on our Supreme Court, where there's a lifelong appointment and you can't really do anything. And that guy. Yeah. That guy's anti-Trump. So he's actually cool. He's with us. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Do you think your base of supporters is deranged by MSNBC? Do you think that we're all still like swallowing Russiagate lines? Like, what is like? That's what's crazy about it. It's like, oh, he's an anti-Trump Republican. It's like, so was George Walker or George. The W was for Washington Bush. That was what George W. Bush was named. It was Washington Bush. Anyway, he also was an anti-Trump Republican. Why? Because he liked to put that friendly, stupid face on the Republican Party. Nuclear. I can't pronounce nuclear. I'm from Texas. Anyway, fucking George Bush was an idiot. Shout out to you, Quintessential Reaction. Cornel West campaign intellectually and emotionally changing minds. I imagine they're changing some minds on the scale that he would need to become president. That's the other thing that's kind of irked me, guys. And I'm still in a position where I might vote for Cornel West. I probably will. Just out of fucking no other options, right? Back to and also like he's still way better than the options. We're just being honest about his campaign at this point. The fact that like he's running as an independent now and making all the, make no mistake about it, Dr. West is running to win. It's like, bro, he's not going to fucking win. So what is the real goal,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what gets under my skin. So I hope that it's to, intellectually and emotionally change minds and get people registered who wouldn't have otherwise been registered. Like, I hope that's the real goal, and that he's just running as a independent as a way to like inspire people to stay active. And in that sense, I do support it. But some of these decisions I think have just been downright awful. On socialism and anti-American empire value, despite not directly party value. Yeah, I think you're in a similar analysis where we're at. Like, of course, these things are correct, and of course, it's good to have somebody advocating for them. Even though I don't think that his campaign will be particularly successful. Honestly, I categorize Dr. West and Marianne Williamson in very similar fashions in my brain as far as the role they're playing. They are, trying to shift the Overton window. They are trying to move the party and the political, apparatus left. But I don't know how successful it will be this time around. That's not to say that there isn't a tremendous amount of value in trying, but we need to understand what we're looking at so we analyze it properly.